This is the American Arson podcast, where our goal is to spark creativity. Whether you're a musician, an artist, a writer, or an entrepreneur, we're here to provide you with tools, tips, and insight from professionals and creatives that you can use to inform and inspire your own journey. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the American Arson podcast, and we have got a good one for you guys today.
Yes, we have Aaron and Shane from Everything in Slow Motion. They just dropped their most recent album, full-length album, Influence, not too long ago, depending on when you guys are hearing this episode, when it releases. And we chat about the album, tell some funny tour stories about getting crushed by a drum rack, and several other things, and just part of all of our journeys musically. It's really rad.
Yeah, I think there's something that everybody in any creative field can kind of take away from this about the creative process and just kind of fighting through and sometimes suffering for the art that you're making. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it.
Good to see you guys, though. It's been a long time.
Good to see you. The last time we saw each other was, I think, the last time any of us played a show.
That's true. Yeah,
pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Are we rolling now?
Yeah, we're rolling. Yeah. Might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys were more than gracious to us after our fiasco that night.
Well, that brings me to my first order of business then.
So here we go.
I said it at the show.
Yeah.
And I said it the next day at the little like Facedown family get together. I don't understand this pedal board business you got going on. I'm wondering, like, what is plan B?
I actually, since that show, I have like extremely simplified and streamlined the whole thing, but you're blowing this whole thing, because I was planning to do, I did a like a pedal board rundown video last spring with my old setup, and I was planning to do another one, and it'd just be a huge surprise to people that I've like totally changed everything up and integrated some MIDI switching and all that, and now you just gave it away. Because
the bigger surprise is when none of it works.
Yeah, that was the first. We had a guy on from California who plays in bands out there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I could have told you, chain reaction, that something with the power, something strange with the power was going to happen."
He was the guy on stage, and he came up and he came back to my drum kit when he was trying to help us out with that on stage, and he was like, "Yeah, this happens all the time." I'm like, you couldn't given us a heads up.
Yeah. You watched me cart this in.
Yeah.
Via U-Haul truck.
Right.
You watched me put it on the stage.
Yeah.
But you didn't you didn't think for a second, this guy's going to have the worst night ever.
Right. Yeah. Well, we just decided that the plan from now on is just to rent a generator from Home Depot and run my pedal board directly to that.
Stick it out front.
Yeah.
I would love nothing more than just like start it up.
No,
all right.
Well, on stage.
The boys are about to begin.
We have to work that into our intro.
Well,
somehow.
Bands have
modulated.
Bands have those those little instrumental like backing track things that go in between songs so they can tune without people getting bored and they don't have to talk a lot. And ours will just be a roaring generator.
I think even better. I thought you were going to say, you know how bands have like those ego risers that they carry around with them, and they've got an extra 8,000 pounds in their trailers.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Instead, your ego risers are these Honda generators.
Yes.
You guys could really do something here.
Yeah, and honestly, people will all be like in an altered state of mind, thinking that we're way better than we are, because the carbon monoxide will just start seeping into their brains.
No, honestly, that you guys made me so scared at that show, because after all that, and you kept talking about the power in the floor. And I kept like looking at these outlets like, well, I'm not going to plug into that one. I'm not going to plug into that one because that one looks just as bad. And oh man, that was wild though. But
what got lost in all of that is my in-ears went out too. We lost everything.
Dude, you guys, I
It
mean,
was brutal.
you made it happen. For the time that you were playing, it sounded great. But it was just kind of like, it's funny, right when that happened, Jeremiah from My Epic, I was standing next to Jeremiah from My Epic in the back, and I don't remember how it all came about, but it was definitely the very first time you guys, like the very first time that your stuff cut out and
Yeah.
things started
Oh,
going
you mean
south.
like 45 seconds into the show? The very first
Exactly.
time.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And I feel like, okay, we do have to comb over this moment because, well, first of all, we don't have very many memories together, but this is a good one. So, but anyways, I was talking to Jeremiah about it. I was like, oh, dude, you know, dang, like what a bummer. Like, cause it's the thing you don't want to happen ever for any band ever. Right.
Yeah.
And I also can relate to just like, it seems like I remember the first time we played Facedown Fest, and it was like the first time we're in front of all the other bands. We're in
Yep.
front of Jason and Virginia.
Mhm.
It's like, all right, you know, this is going to be, we feel like it just felt like we had to go out there and prove something.
Yeah.
And I just feel like every Facedown Fest every year after that, including that year, was just like constant failure.
Oh.
Like, it was just every Facedown Fest. It's like, and eventually I got to the point where it's like year 5, and I'm like, well, this is going to be a shit show, so let's just get it over with. And so, but I can relate to that kind of like that. I feel like, you know, I don't know if you guys had that, but there's definitely that, a little bit of that pressure, especially I think being the first band of the night too.
Yeah.
It's always like a tough go. Like, you just don't know what's gonna happen.
I mean, that, and we had only played, like you said, we had only played with comrades before at that point. Or no, we had
once with Dens, once with
Dens
and once with comrades, or a couple times with
and
comrades.
so those were really the only, like you said, the only
Yeah.
people we had been in front of that we knew on a personal level
Yeah.
too. We had played with comrades a couple times and stuff, but like, yeah, it was definitely like,
Dude.
I was just I was really upset at first in my head, and then I was just like,
Oh, you guys were
course, of
raging
course.
mad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You were raging mad. Jesse, you actually looked like the calm one. Evan was the one that looked like he was going to put his guitar through the floor.
Yeah. 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 I think, I mean, I definitely have those expectations of, like, you know, for the first Facedown Fest, and we want to, you know, show everybody that we belong here. You know, we're the new guys and all that kind of stuff.
You took all that rage out on that floor tom you had. And I mean, Chad Senstock got pictures of that. I mean,
didn't chuck it off the stage this
I don't
time.
know
He's
if there
done
was
that
anything
before.
left of that thing when you were done with it. But
somebody got us. I think Casey, the guy that came with us to video, got a slow motion of me hitting it, and I was like, oh wow, there was some violence there.
I'm standing next to Jeremiah, right, and the first like happens, and it's just shaking the room, and you know, everyone's eyeballs are crossing, and like Jeremiah goes, have you seen the pedal board up there? It's got to be the pedal board. And I go, what? No, come on, man. And he goes, no, really. He goes, you haven't seen it yet? And I'm just thinking, like, this can't be that crazy.
Right.
He goes, go up and look at it. So I walk through the green room area, you know, I go up to the side of the stage where there's that little stairs, and I peek out on the stage, and I go, oh my God. Like, right away, I'm like, this is like, I just got crazy anxiety looking at it. And that's why, and I think it's rad, but I was also just like, I think that's why the next day I was talking to you guys. I'm like, what's plan B?
Yeah.
Like, what happens if one wire or one button or one thing decides it's not going to work that day?
Yeah.
What do you do?
We've had little things like that of one thing going out or something
Usually
like
it's
that.
one pedal or a chord or something.
Yeah. And so, I mean, when we first started the band, you know, I just there's things I didn't think about. So I've since like upgraded to like all the connectors in between and that kind of stuff. But usually,
but you know it's going to go wrong at the exact moment you don't want it to go.
Right.
It's going to be the one show, the one place. That's where that pedal or that wire is going to just be like, hey, what's up, buddy? Evan, hey, guess what?
I think, I mean, if you want me to actually answer the question, if it's not rhetorical, I think plan B is like getting 2 more bandmates, probably, because like being a team,
Yeah, don't do that.
Well,
Rock and roll duo is
Right.
what makes you guys unique and
right.
cool.
So
Guys,
okay, so
you guys
either
looking for another band to join?
start sounding, change our sound to be like super minimalist two piece, like the White Stripes or something, or get a few more bandmates. Otherwise, or I guess the third option is streamline the pedal board a little bit, which is what I'm currently in the process of doing.
You could
so-
just do like you could run all your band practices where someone is just constant, like have a friend show up every time and just sabotage your pedal board randomly.
yeah,
And then you have to find your way out of it.
yeah.
So that way, by the time anything happens, your like your capability to handle pedal board bullshit is like mastery. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's a
That's
yeah,
a great idea.
yeah. Live. I mean, that's like that's like
Somebody
live
to
military
just
fire
take-
drills. Like
Yeah.
what's solve the problem? You know, you don't know what's coming.
There it is.
Take random lugs out of my drum kit, just
Whatever
like,
it
heads
takes,
start
man.
falling out, and just
Well,
figure
next
it
time we play together,
oh
I'll take
no!
care of the drums. Shane will take care of the pedal board.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
In 2027 when concerts are
2027
allowed
when
to
we can play
Yeah.
again.
happen.
yeah.
Also, that is the last night, I believe, that Chain Reaction had live music.
Oh wow.
I think. I'm pretty
Yep.
sure that was the very last show to happen at Chain Reaction. And hopefully, it sounds like there's an effort being made to keep them alive. But
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
a few weeks ago it came out that they were really in a tough spot. So,
Yeah, I saw that there's a few bands that are kind of spearheading that effort, and more have jumped on since then. So, if you've ever been to Chain Reaction and it's ever meant anything to you, I guarantee you could just save Chain Reaction into Google, and a bunch of those would come up. And there's some pretty cool T-shirts that I've seen that are out there. I
Yeah.
think Thrice has one. So yeah, definitely check that out and help them out.
such a great spot, such a
right.
great venue.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. We're not bitter about the pedal board thing at all. That was
no, I mean, all that aside,
Yeah.
I had to bust your balls about that a little
No,
bit. 'cause
it's
funny.
fine.
But
and as
all
much
that
as,
aside, though, you guys, and I said it the night you guys played, you guys sounded freaking awesome. I mean, it
Well, thank you.
sounded great for
Thank you.
everything that happened. You would think that like the rest of the show, I felt like the rest of the show actually outweighed the problems that you guys had. And what was cool is the problems you had actually, it kind of created all this anger and rage, which made the music that much cooler and heavier. You know what I mean?
The best shows we've played, or at least the couple shows that people like our friends and stuff that have been on the road with us tell us are our best shows and always bring back up, are the shows where something disastrous, like there's the show where Evan's guitar got stolen right before it happened.
That's not good.
They're like, that's the tightest I've ever heard you guys play ever. We were just so laser focused and pissed off, just like
Dang.
so I mean, maybe that's part of it. Maybe we need to pay someone to come along and sabotage our stuff, like you said. And
That's called another band member.
Yeah.
well, as much as I would love to spend the rest of our time together reliving all of the horrible things that have happened, like my guitar getting stolen and our pedal board blowing up.
It's the fun stuff to talk about. Though,
right,
man,
right,
you know?
right.
This is what the people want.
I think that the people would be remiss.
they want to learn about our misery.
Yeah, maybe there are probably some people who really don't like us that want to learn about that, but I think most of the people would be remiss if we did not mention that you guys just put out a brand new album in October called
incredible
Influence. Yes, so
Yeah.
congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know
It was a process.
Yeah, and we wanted to
Yes,
dive
it
into
was.
that a little bit. It seemed like it was something that was a long time in coming. Obviously, 6 years between full lengths, with Laid Low in the middle there. But can you talk about that process and when it really kind of revved up?
Yeah. Well, after Laid Low in actually, right at the time Laid Low came out is when Aaron Crawford joined the band, my man down there in the lower right box, depending on how you're looking at the screen. But Zoom, guys, we're doing it.
Yeah. 2020.
But yeah, Aaron, this, I mean, you know, this thing is often talked about as some sort of solo project. that's how it initially started. But
Okay.
the second we started playing shows live, it wasn't that. It
Mhm.
was like any friends I had that I wanted to play music with were invited in, and we could go and do some of these random shows together. And it was still primarily me doing all of the writing and recording and whatnot. And after that Laid Low EP came out in 2016, or right around the time it came out, I had just moved to Kansas City and was looking for some people to join or to bring into this project. And Aaron Crawford is actually one of the last dudes I thought would actually do it. Uh, and I didn't really, what's funny is I didn't know Aaron hardly at all. I just had met him a couple times previously through mutual friends, but I didn't know him. And I just happened to send kind of a message out on Facebook to a bunch of different friends I knew saying, "Hey guys, I live in Kansas City now. If anyone wants to jam." And I feel like no one responded. And I even hesitated putting Aaron in the group because I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Because I knew Aaron was a part of like cooler bands and bigger bands,
Right.
especially like in the Kansas City area. So I was like, this is so embarrassing, but whatever. I'm just going to put him in there. And he happened to be the guy that responded. And so I think like adding Aaron to this was a huge, like, I don't think this album wouldn't have been a thing without him. And really it came at the right time where I was really considering packing up the band and just being done.
Okay.
There was just too much stuff going on, and music kind of took a back seat for the first time ever in my life, where there's just so much other stuff going on. And Aaron had just kind of come in at that point. So it's like I invite Aaron into the band and then everything just goes south. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, dude, it was crazy.
Get over here.
But Aaron,
Back in line.
it was kind of a thing where we talked about, well, we should do a record. We should do a record. And I was sitting on top of some demos, and eventually, I mean, after it took a few years to kind of get to that point of like, all right, let's really do this. We think there's something here.
Yeah.
And we got Nate Washburn from My Epic involved to produce and mix and all that. And I knew Nate. Aaron didn't know Nate, so it was kind of like this first, run at the three of us.
Yeah.
And that started in December 2018.
Wow.
And all hell broke loose from there.
Yeah.
So,
And
it was a long process of just, I mean, I don't know. I've talked about this so much already. Aaron, what do you remember? Because I'm kind of curious, honestly, not to use their podcast as a test run for this.
oh, let's go.
No,
But I'm
that's
just
what
kind of
we're here
curious.
for.
Like,
Exclusive.
I think everyone knows what I'm going to say. I mean, it's just, there was so much that we went through to get to the album being completed.
Mhm.
We blew 8 deadlines with Jason. It just didn't feel like it was ever going to happen. And, Aaron was there for every single moment of that. So I'm kind of curious to hear Aaron talk about what happened.
I mean,
there.
there's months that you were just laying back there on my floor in front of a microphone.
That exact room right there.
Yeah, and then he'd get right here, and we would saunter around in our dad hobby time. In other words, we would both be working, and I'd be like, okay. He's like, I'll be over at 7. And we would join powers, we'd eat, we'd chill, we'd catch up, and then they're like, okay, let's go down there. And it would be hours sometimes just like laying on the floor, and he's like, we're never going to get this record done. And I'm like, we're going to get this record done, even if I have to squeeze like little sections out of you, like piece by piece. And I really think that it took that to actually get us as a band to produce the right type of vibe, the right type of music, say the right thing. And like we probably went through multiple different versions of songs with lyrics, ways to approach. And I knew it wasn't right. He knew it wasn't right. So we'd keep working on it. for how much time we put into the record, we're not just going to get it done. And I think Shane learned that about me pretty quick, that I'm not a person of just getting something done. Like, I want it to be right. I want it to say the right thing. I want it to feel right. And I think from day one of, playing music with Shane, probably some of the first things he ever heard from me in practice was like, "You're singing, right? Like you're gonna sing through the microphone at practice."
I would never do vocals in practice.
Okay.
Because I hate I learned to be a vocalist, I feel like, for the first time in this record.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird to think that there's all these other records before it. And I'm happy with those performances, and I'm happy with those lyrics, and I think I there's nothing I look back on that I'm just like, man, I just wasn't with it. But this record is considerably different than every other album, and it was kind of like, I really have to, I can't just like it's always just been like, okay, drums, guitar, bass, extra sprinkles of production. Let's just get all this music sounding super badass. Oh, and then at the last minute, I have to try and write all these lyrics and vocals and things to sell the song. Those were never the priority. It was always like, I hope to God I can come up with something by the time we get to the end of recording. And every record I promised myself, though, that's not going to happen next time. That's not going to happen next time.
Yeah.
With this record in particular, I simply could not get away with that. And I knew that. And it was just kind of like, okay, I'm going to go to Aaron's house and I'm going to start, to go back. We did the drums, guitars, bass, all that stuff. We spent a couple days at this surf ballroom.
I was gonna say,
in Clear Lake, Iowa, which is this.
Those pictures look incredible.
Yeah, I mean, dude, unbelievable room, and to be able to spend a couple days there in that history, in that landmark, and just create is such an amazing gift. Like, they didn't charge us anything to be there. They were super nice and cool with us the whole time, and just kind of let us do whatever we wanted.
And what led you there in the first place?
So, I love Buddy Holly.
Okay.
Yeah, and have been a fan of Buddy Holly for a long time. And basically, the Surf Ballroom is the last place that he played. Him and Richie Valens and the Big Bopper, before they got in a terrible plane crash. And they were actually headed to my hometown of Fargo, North Dakota, to play next. Anyways, I'd always known the venue was there, and it's not one of those creepy things where you want to go there because it's the last place someone was, it's not one of those things. It's just like, it's actually a museum, like it's when you walk in there, there's actually a museum section that has all this really amazing stuff and signed old choral records that are autographed, all sorts of cool stuff. And so I happened to go in there back in 2013. And when I walked in, it's a small town off the highway. There was one person in there, and it was the person working in this little back side room that was volunteering. It was dead empty. And so I'm like, hello, like, it's super weird. And just like, I feel like I'm going to get in trouble because there's priceless artifacts over in that room. And this lady just came out and she's like, yeah, just walk around, do whatever you want. Like, we'll be here if you got any questions. And I remember I just walked around the room, and as soon as I got into the ballroom, it was one of those things where I guess I tend to look at, I'm sure you guys might do the same, but I don't know, when I walk into a place like that, the first thing that hits my mind is like, oh, we have to record in here. I have to create in here. I have to do something in here. Whatever this room is and whatever vibe this is, this has to be a part of my creation, and so that was 2013, and that's been a bucket list item to go there and record. And I never thought it would happen because, with budget limitations, it's like it costs a lot of money to bring a bunch of people and a recording setup and everything else out there to do this stuff and do it correct. I I never thought it would happen. And with this record, it was one of those things where it's like, what if we did that? What if we went to the Surf Ballroom? Do you think we could make? I mean, it's crazy.
Just
We're gonna
go
drive.
for it.
We're gonna have to go in there, ask for permission. 2, it's gonna be 11 hours round trip. 3, we're gonna have to fly Nate in, drive him all the way up there, spend a couple days there, get a hotel. We're gonna have to haul all this recording equipment up there, and there's a part of you that asks. Well, I guess I don't ask this, but there would be other people I think that would ask this. Well, why though? Why do you need to do that? You want big drums? Cool. There's a billion plugins that you could put in on the recording to give you big drums.
Right.
Yeah. But they're not those drums, and they're not in that room. I want the air in that room breathing into this record.
Yeah.
And there's no plugin that can do that for me. And it's just being surrounded with that vibe, whatever that room has, it influences you creatively. I mean, it really does.
I think it's sometimes hard to explain it to people who maybe aren't musicians or artists or creatives in a certain way. It's almost like some kind of unspoken, unwritten kind of just aura about a space that just inspires you, and just like you said, just breathes into whatever project you're working on.
100%. And it's on every level. It's like you pick up a guitar the first time and it's the right guitar, right? There's a billion other guitars that you could play, and you've played a bunch of them, and you've gone to a music store and you've picked off every one on the rack, but there's something about this one that makes you want, like, all of a sudden you feel creative. Like, I want to write, I want to do stuff. And it's like that same experience translates to your drums, to the room you're performing in, everything. It all feeds into it. So I could go on for another 4 hours on that, but that's how we ended up at the Surf Ballroom. Incredible experience. And then the rest of it, we ended up down in Tennessee with Nate, at this really cool, like, old church studio, basically in the worst town on the planet. But we spent 10 days there and did drums and so Aaron did a day and a half of drums, absolutely just murdered it, and then drove like 16 hours home and started teaching his first college class, a new job he had accepted the next day.
Wow.
What?
And
that was wild.
There was bags of ice everywhere and coffee and ibuprofen, and Aaron was just like, but I mean, he just came in and crushed these tracks and then bailed. And then it was 10 days of like, okay, like we've got guitars, and it's like, at that studio, it was guitar land. I mean, it was totally my world, man. It's like, we're in the past, it's always like, okay, pick an amp for your dirty tone, pick an amp for your clean tone, and let's rock and roll.
Gotcha.
And most of it is because of time.
Yeah.
It's just like, we just got to do this. Like,
right.
And this is the first time where we spent 10 days with all the amps and all the pedals and all the guitars, really breaking it down section by section. And ultimately, when it came time to do vocals, we started doing that at Aaron's house in Kansas City, in that room that you see there. And we kind of had the same approach, where it's just like, we're going to take this section by section. First of all, what do you have for melodies and lyrics? Go for it. You know what I mean? And I would sing something and I would try something. And for what I was aiming at, it's like, oh, damn it. I'm not going to be able to just like nail this one out. Like, this is going to, oh crap, And Aaron earlier totally undersold himself when he said he's meticulous. He's the most meticulous. And, and as
you need some of that though.
You need it. No, I absolutely agree. You need it. And it was all of those things. Like, I was never meticulous when it came down to vocals. And this was the first time that I feel like I was really challenged to do that. And, and I mean, Aaron I'd get through a line and I thought it was okay,
Yeah.
And then Aaron would say, all right, let's listen back to that. I'd listen back. Okay. And he'd go, okay, did you hear, and we're talking about a full phrase, right? Okay. So did you hear that one word in there? That one, the way you said, you know, love, let's just say, the way you said that, did you hear the character you were in when you said that? And I would go, oh shit. Yes, Aaron. Yes. I know it. And I knew what he meant. I knew what he meant. It wasn't like I don't know what you're talking about. Go home, you're drunk. It wasn't that. It was, I knew what he meant. But he's like, I need you to be in that character for the whole line. And as a person trying to process that as a vocalist, I'm going, okay, I want to play ball here, but I also just want to get in my car and leave. And so I would try, because I'm an adult. I can do this. So I'm trying to, I'm throwing out my ego and I'm going, okay, how can I move my mouth differently to be in this character? And so I'm going, and I'm like trying to figure out different ways to sing it. I'm using different like breath from my chest, my stomach. I'm using, I'm doing everything to try and figure out, how do I need to sing this one stupid line?
Yeah.
So we can get to the next line, which is then going to ultimately bury me, and I'm gonna not do the record, and it's gonna be over.
And Aaron's there like, no, we're gonna finish this record.
Yeah.
No, this repeated for months.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
this went on, and on, and it wasn't, again, it wasn't a bad thing, because there is a standard when you decide you're going to make a record like this, and you decide you're going to go all in, and you decide that it's going to be the best thing you've ever done, then anything less than that doesn't qualify.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have to break down your own stupid ego and say, well, what's it going to take? Like, what do I need? And for me, I just needed to become a better vocalist. And I took, I went and did some vocal coaching. I started warming up before I've never warmed up in my entire life for anything.
Yeah, guilty.
And if you go back and listen to past vocal performances, it shows to me they're terrible vocal performances. I can get away with the screaming stuff. I can do that all day long. That's not an issue. But singing a song and singing it live and having energy, and 9 times out of 10, you've got no monitors and it's not ideal at all.
Right.
Because that's every show that bands like us play. And
Right.
You guys
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
We don't get the liberty of having awesome sound guys and everything being perfect.
Right.
And so I plan for 9 out of 10 shows. I've got to be prepared to not be able to hear myself.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. So how do I do that? And plan for the worst. That's why you have a plan B with this pedal board thing. But
back to the board.
But anyways,
we're gonna find a way to make it come full circle.
It's always gonna come back to the board.
Gonna come back to the board. But no, we eventually got to a point where you just had to put in the work, and I think it was months of that, and recalculating melodies and how I'm going to approach certain songs, and to ultimately get it done. And I mean, it didn't stop there. When it came to mixing, when it came to extra production, every single thing down to the last moment before this album hit the internet or whatever on October 16th was a freaking grind.
Yeah.
I mean, every detail. I swear to God, this thing was cursed, and that's what we kept saying. This album's cursed, And I don't know. So I get that was a super long answer, and we kind of went in a million different pockets. But
no, it's good. It's good because I think there's an inherent angst in rock and roll, right? I mean, I know people now have commandeered it for all sorts of purposes, and there's some of the most pop kind of demographic targeted type things have been, because we take rock and roll and make it into something super marketable. But I think the spirit of rock and roll, the spirit of hardcore, which I think still really lives in your music, comes from a place of angst and a place of deep conviction and sometimes even suffering. And to hear that you suffered to make this album for yourselves, but also for the people listening to it. I think there's an authenticity that comes with that, because it's just inherent in this type of music that we've all chosen to play. Genre differences aside, I think that's the one thing that really kind of ties all these different subgenres of rock and hardcore and post-hardcore and punk and all these things together, is that this coming from a place of deep conviction and angst, and to know that you had to suffer for it to get this record to sound the way that it does. I think that just gives it even more authenticity, and also I think a sense of like timelessness, because when somebody goes back in 10 years or 15 years and listens to this album, they're not going to hear a band that was trying to capture, what's hot right now, how can we appeal to what people are into right now. They're going to hear a band that was trying to make something timeless in a timeless space, and using real instruments, the timeless instruments, the drums and the guitars, and the vocal versatility, going between screams and falsettos and everything in between on this album. I think people really appreciate that. So I know I enjoy hearing the backstory of that for sure.
Yeah.
But
If this was an 8-hour podcast, I could tell you so much more. But
Well, I mean, hey, we gotta. I don't think we're gonna come up with enough guests for the next couple seasons. We'll just do it, like I said, part 2. Chances are we're not gonna be able to play shows for a while, so we might as well just keep telling these stories.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. No, it's awesome. I think, I don't know. I just keep telling Aaron all the time, and I can't believe it's done. Because I remember, again, like he said, I remember laying.
I was
on
gonna
that.
say, how's it feel now? Like,
Well, it doesn't. I don't know. It's just it's out there, and I mean, the thing is like, so much of it for me. I can't speak for Aaron, but none of this is for anybody else. Like when I'm laying on the floor back there in his place, and I'm saying this is never going to get done. The drive to get it done is not so people can hear it. I know that might sound weird, but that's not it. This record isn't for you or anybody else. Record isn't for Jason at Facedown. I need to be able to hear this for myself and love it and remember it and be super proud of it. And I just think that, like, man, I don't know. It's to be able to know that it's out now. It's cool to see people excited about it. And at the same time, I know that it's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Like I can turn it on, I can listen to it, and I'm like, oh hell yeah. Like I listen to this record and I don't hear. I'm definitely not too cool to listen to my own music. I've listened to this record a billion times, and every time I hear it, I'm just like, there are no. I don't hear any shortcuts. There are no shortcuts, and it shows, and I'm super stoked on that. And now it's like, okay, let's take some time, and then now what's next? It's like, I know we've talked about doing like, live streaming things. I'm sure you guys have too, where it's like, well, what do we do with no shows? And not that we were a touring band anyways, like we certainly had intentions of doing this, where we actually did want to play, like really start to pick up and play shows and do things. And this whole thing has just kind of sucked the air out of that.
Yeah.
But then when I think of, doing like live streams and things like that, I think it's all cool. I think it's all fun. And at the same time, I'm just kind of like, can we just skip all that and just start writing another record? Like, because that's the stuff that I love.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, performing these songs on a live stream, I'm sure it would be fun, but I'd rather perform them with people in front of me. And, I don't know, maybe that sounds a bit
No.
selfish,
not
but
at
it's
all.
like,
Not at all, man. I had the same
Totally get
conversation
it.
very recently where people were asking us about it and why haven't we done it yet and everything. And maybe it is something that we do need to do, especially releasing the album and then having no, no release tour, no, all the festivals canceled and everything like that. But there's something about the give and take, the energy in a room, the people feeding off of this thing that you just spent all of this time, making it for, like you said, for you, and now realizing that other people are about to step into that for the very first time because they weren't part of that whole process. Like you said, you laying on the floor, somebody else wasn't suffering there with you, but now they're sort of commandeering your creation to be a part of and a vehicle for their lives and emotions and everything. And the live stream, while I think it's awesome that bands have done that, and it's certainly better than nothing, it just doesn't capture that same
Emotion.
and the same like reciprocity, the give and take of multiple people kind of being in
Like
the
if
same
we were
place.
doing a live stream and his pedal board blew up and we were just like on this screen,
Yeah, then you just
standing there. But like, as opposed, like, as funny as it is, like, I think honestly what came of that last like 30 seconds where people were singing what song was it we ended with?
10 Towers,
like
people just
10
finished this,
Towers.
singing the song.
We just stopped playing and people just sang the rest of it for us. Like that kind of stuff doesn't happen on a live stream.
That's a good point.
Like, and as disastrous as that 30 minutes was, that felt like 90 minutes. Like that moment with people yelling many whom we had never met before, never seen before, yelling these lyrics back to us, like, would have never happened. Like, I mean, maybe they would be in their living room, I don't know, but like we're not experiencing
only
that.
the crazy ones.
Yeah, no, most people would just be changing the channel until the technical difficulties get sorted out.
You'd either see the view count dropping drastically, or
all right, Monday Night Football's on.
Like, what are they going to do with this?
Yeah. Tune into the train wreck.
Yeah.
Well,
we'd end up all over TikTok or something like that on the next days.
Kind of along those lines of you saying that, that it was just a really personal experience for you guys and that you made it, for yourselves. But then obviously there's this thing of like going out there and being listened to and appreciated by others is sort of like the final part of that. I read an interview recently with you, Shane, where it's kind of a predictable question that a lot of times comes up with songwriting and stuff like that, about what are these songs about and stuff, and what you said was that you kind of prefer to have people interpret them as they will, and because they sometimes will have different meanings for different people and all of that stuff, which I also have heard that same answer from Jimmy Eat World before, and I know that you're a fan of them, so I don't know if there's any correlation there, but
so Freddie Mercury said that when people were asking him about what his songs were about, and that's what he was saying at the time, was leaving it up to the imagination. Because I feel like, it is a perfect example. My sister actually just called me a few weeks ago, and she was listening to the album, and she was just like, I really like this particular song. What is it about? I have to ask you. And I said, well, what do you think it's about? And she goes, well, and so she gives me this big explanation, which is like a million miles away from what the song is actually about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I explained to her is that, I said, I'm not going to give you the answer. I feel like by telling people, I feel like I'm stealing something away from them. I'm taking that away from them because I don't need to give them anything. So then they have a jumping off point.
Yeah.
We don't need that. So you listen to the song, interpret it, and however it hits you at that time, whatever you make of it, I mean, that's you. That's apparently what you needed to hear, what you wanted at that exact time, or exactly what you didn't want. And it's like, and that's totally fine. And I just I don't want to rob the listener of those things, because truth be told, when I started writing insert whatever song, I probably had a jumping off point. I probably had an idea of what that song is going to be about. And by the time I get done with it, it's not even close to what
Something completely
it's
different.
completely
Yeah.
different, because I
Right.
found some other way and some other turn. And then what ends up happening is when the record's out and it's done, I hear it, and then something else clicks where I'm like, oh damn, that song could be that too. Like
Right.
I like how that ties together.
Or maybe it even was, because subconsciously when these ideas are coming out, you don't get to choose what part of your brain they're coming from, which is really cool. We kind of took the exact opposite approach with our last album. We went and did a song by song podcast where we talked about each one of them for like 10 to 15 minutes. And so I was really, really intrigued. But when I read that, because it was so far removed from what we had done and just kind of understanding the merits of both approaches, I was really interested in that. But you said that Aaron was kind of going line by line with you through that. So was there an understanding between the two of you? Like, Aaron, were you asking Shane, like, okay, where are we at with this? Or were you more kind of stepping back like a coach, like from a coach perspective or something?
I would
give it to
definitely
him,
from
Dad.
a coach, definitely from a coach perspective. But, at the same time, Shane left portions of things allowed for me to be an interpreter of what our songs are about as well. So that was the luxury that I got, because, I feel like for the most part, I knew the root of where the songs were coming from. But as they morphed into something else, we were talking about timeless records.
Yeah.
It has given me a sense of like, I'm a part of a timeless record, because even from the point where we were working on them in my studio here to the point of listening to them now, I'm already starting to get different meanings out of it. And I'm starting to remove myself from whatever meanings were back then.
Okay.
So it's really, really interesting that, like, I can look back and think of the roots, but then know how far that they have come and how I can actually just remove myself from that.
That's really cool. So what you're saying is you guys didn't have any like deep heart-to-heart dialogues on this is the message I want to convey?
Sure.
Yeah. No, we had plenty of heart-to-hearts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And there was definitely, there was probably, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I mean, there was probably a few moments where Aaron would say, like, I don't get what you're aiming at here.
Right.
Like, and I don't know if but the thing is that I think Aaron and I were on such like we were in perfect harmony with each other the entire time, because anytime I would have that feeling already in the back of my head, like, oh, I think this line is bullshit, but but I'm not sure.
Right.
And it's like, and Aaron would be like,
listen, man.
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
So that line right there, by the way, no, like
he caught me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there were those moments where you're just,
did you hear the character you had in that line?
Yeah. And it was like I said, like all that stuff was good, because I think it's good to challenge yourself to go back and rethink something. I don't think you have to get crazy and rethink every single song and every single line and whatever.
Right.
But for instance, that song Choke that's on our record, the chorus I had initially was the demo chorus was completely different. The vocals were different, the intensity was different. And it's because when I hear a big part, I feel like the vocals need to be big.
Yes.
Because I have to match that. I have to match that intensity.
Yep.
And dude, I'm with you. I mean, I can hear that in your music too, where I think you feel this need to just want to be like, I don't know, like you just want to go for it.
Yeah.
And just have it just be like arena rock at its finest, like.
Yeah.
But not that I'm ever thinking that, like, God, I want this song to be arena rock. But you certainly
make her an arena rock
certainly
record.
want to match the intensity and match the moment. And I had to back myself off from that, because I'm like, that doesn't mean that it's right. Because I feel that way that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best thing for that chorus or the best way to get across what I'm trying to say. And so I completely deleted, like go into the demo session, delete chorus, never want to hear it again.
Oh, wow.
Was probably a good idea. Done.
Dang.
Let's start from scratch. Totally new melody, new lyrics. What can we do? And this time, rather than trying to sing with crazy intensity, let me rethink this vocal part, try and come up with something more melodic and not honest sounding, but a little more chill. Like a little more like, if I'm mad at you and I'm pissed at you, rather than being like, I hate you and you suck, looking at you and saying, I hate you and you suck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It almost hurts more.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
does.
because I know
It's more brooding. It's more.
And so, and not that song's about hating somebody, but I mean, it is a little bit, I guess. But no, I'm just kidding. Reel me in, Aaron Crawford. Reel me in.
Yeah.
No,
keep on going, man. You're doing good. You'll see this in a minute.
Yeah. But again, it's like it's rethinking it with that approach. Because, okay, what am I scared that it's not going to sound big enough in this chorus? Well, we can layer harmonies and we can layer background vocals, and there's other ways to make things big other than just yelling and being loud. So how do I lean into that a little bit more? And it's that thought process that ultimately led to something cooler and better and heavier and carried more weight and carried the thing I was trying to say better. And I'm glad that I went back and did that. And before past records, I would never do that. It's just, that's not on the table. If I find a chorus that I like and I'm happy with it and I'm happy with the lyrics, there's no way I'm rethinking that, because I've hated writing every lyric up to that point and I just want to be done.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's no way I'm going to go back and be like, oh God, I can't wait to rewrite this whole chorus.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely my least favorite part of the process as well.
Oh,
but very rewarding once you come out the other side, for sure.
Very rewarding.
The most important part of the process is lyrics, what you have to say, melody. You know, if you have a garbage drummer or the melody sucks, like who wants to connect to that? So
that's a good point.
So it's I knew how.
It's a good point. You do have a garbage drummer, Evan.
Yeah.
Hey, well, much like Shane, he was the only guy who answered my message, so I didn't have a whole lot of choices.
There it is.
Oh man, well,
you got the garbage of the garbage best in Kansas City right here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we're kind of coming to a close here, everybody in the world right now, and we've talked about it a little bit, but all of us are missing live music very much, and touring or whatever it happens to be. So we have been asking some of our guests, and we'd like to extend the same question to you, but do you have a crazy or funny or tragic tour story or story from the road that you would like to share with us to kind of remind us all of what is waiting for us once we come out the other side of this pandemic?
Oh, Shane, you're going first, man.
Okay, we were playing at Chain Reaction, and the opening band had this massive pedal board. And I knew it.
Oh, man.
All right.
All right. So okay. So I guess real quick.
Real quick. Here we go.
I'll keep it quick. I promise. Time me. We were at a venue. So this was back in the Hands days. I don't really have Slow Motion. We haven't really played like a ton of shows, so nothing really crazy has happened. It's just been like
we're so dad when it.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, dude, if it's coming, we'll be ready for it, and I'll hand. I mean, I'm good. Like I said, I go into every show thinking like this is going to be a complete disaster. Well, let's just have fun and let's rock and roll.
There you go.
You need to start doing that.
If I go into it with that attitude, I have a great show.
Yeah.
And nothing can get me down. Nothing. But if I go in and put all this weight on my shoulders, like, okay, the tracks have to be perfect. I have to hear myself. Let's mess with the monitor guy who doesn't care about my band for the next 6 minutes. Let's, if I do that, I'm going to have a nightmare show.
Right.
But anyways,
that's some good advice.
So Hands was in Waco, Texas at this really badass venue called Art Ambush. We were there with In the Midst of Lions, rest in peace, another Facedown band. And anyways, we were in the middle of this song. It's called Of the Flesh, and very biblical jam. And there's this huge, like, forever buildup to what leads to just a big pause, and then of course you smash people in the face with the breakdown, right? So we're building and building, and it's one of the craziest shows we've ever played. There was a ton of people there. People were going off the wall, like, and that never happened for Hands, by the way. 99.5% of Hands shows was like 5 people standing there, just like doing this. And then once, like any other band, literally insert any other metal band that played breakdowns, then the room would fill back up and people would go nuts.
I find it hard to believe that the legend that is around Hands now.
People gave no F's about Hands until Hands was dead and in the ground.
Don't know what you got thoughts on, man.
Then all of a sudden, people are just like, dude, give me rest, man. Whoa. I mean, classic, you know? Anyway, sorry. Now I'm breaking people's balls. That's not true. We had a lot of really good, friendly fans, and I'm grateful for that.
Especially in Waco?
In Waco, especially that night, off the chain. And so it's dun, 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 this huge buildup. The lights are flashing. And Josh, our drummer, it comes to a stop, the big buildup. There's a 4 count, and then you smash people with the breakdown. Right. So it gets to the stop, and I hear Josh in the background. He yells, and he goes, ah, before he's going to smash the breakdown, right? It's this release of energy, totally like, what's that, Braveheart style, right?
Yeah.
Ah, do. So I hear the, ah, and I see the lights, like, flood out the room, and I'm like, here it comes. John. And it's just guitars and bass, and there's no drums.
What?
I was floored. And I look back at the drum kit, and there's no drummer. Like, Josh is gone. And that's when I realized. So the stage was like 6 feet high, and his drum throne tipped off the back of it and fell off the stage. But here's the best part, is the drummer's gone, and we're just going, Jun, looking at each other. Right. And then all of a sudden you hear the kick drum.
Going.
All of a sudden you hear the kick drum go, boop, 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 boop. And then I see a hand reach over the snare drum. Boop, 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 bop, boop, 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 bop. And he stood up and reached above the stage and started hitting the kick pedal with his hand. And he's climbing on the stage while trying to play the drums. It was the funniest thing I've ever experienced in my life.
That's incredible. Did you guys get back into it? He just climbed up and then eventually...
I guess. Like, it was like the weakest thing ever, because like the crowd's looking at us. And like I said,
5
like seeing
people,
a drummer
right? We're like,
climb.
Yeah, about right.
It was absolutely hilarious.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that 2 seconds for where you're not sure where he is, though. You're thinking like, was this a bathroom break?
It felt like 30 seconds though.
So did he say later that the
boop, 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 and I'm like, oh no, he isn't. Then the hand pop. Boop, 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 pop.
Well, I mean, you guys were called Hands, so
there it is. There it is. Rest in peace.
So was the yell from him like the movie plummeting off the stage?
Here's what he used to do. When he used to do the yell, which was like an every night thing, right?
Okay.
He would throw his sticks up and go, ah! But his throne was on the edge of the stage.
Right, so the momentum.
So when he went, ah, the throne tipped backwards. And there he went. So goodbye, Josh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, at least he didn't stop playing. So
yeah, he tried. He tried to get back in it. No.
So I mean,
A for effort.
I don't know if you guys knew this. I'm just putting this out there because I don't know how educated you are with Aaron Crawford. Aaron Crawford is a Facedown Records veteran. Okay, formerly of Flee the Scene.
Knew that.
Which was one of the first bands ever to bring kind of a different flavor to Facedown Town. So just throwing that out there.
So there
you
go.
Aaron, if you got any crazy,
pave the way for those of us who are not who are not metal and are still
tried to kill the record label. If there's any stories,
totally have stories like that. How my band,
you know,
it's fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
It's fine.
We're still here.
Distro in the middle of our record and years of things happening. So yeah, but it's like building on that story. I have a Flee the Scene story about something similar that that happened to Josh of Shane's band Hands, and except it was like as we were getting going, it was right before we were talking to Facedown, and we had just changed our name to Flee the Scene. And we were playing this venue in Kansas City called the Stray Cat. And no one really remembers this place because now the Sprint Center is plopped on top of it, which is huge.
Sounds super dicey, by the way.
Yeah, so super dicey. So the guy that was doing sound, I had to go get because he was putting on his like, those like potato bags? He had a potato bag toga.
What?
And he was upstairs in the top room, and I walk up and I'm like, Justin? And he's like, what? I'm like, I graduated with your brother. And it was like that weird moment where I'm like, I know this weird guy too. And I'm like, oh no.
He's not just a weird guy, he's a weird guy you kind of know.
and I know him. And I'm like, are you doing sound? And he's like, oh yeah, I can do that. And he comes downstairs. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, we're getting set up and setting my drums up on this rickety ass stage that's about the height of your guys' desks that you're probably sitting at right now, and like I'm noticing it's just like real sketchy. And so at the time, this is like 2004, so I'm still rocking like the Gibraltar drum cage that I'm sitting down because I'm poor and I can't afford anything else, and put my Tama Rockstar kit up there and like get it all situated. And we break into like Wiretap Out, which was our first Facedown single. And we break into it, and it's in 7/8, and like it's you miss a beat and like it's you're off. Yeah. So we're rocking, and like it sounds whatever because it's a big ass falling apart building, and like
Stray Cat.
I'm going into that second chorus where like I know I have to stay into it, and then suddenly I look over and I'm seeing the pulls to my drum rack start to go backwards, and it's coming towards me, and I'm like, I'm a big dude, but I can't really control this, so I'm pretty much playing Coma before I knew how to play that song. Yeah. So like, I'm doing this to the actual drum cage, and the next thing I know, it just goes and pins me, and I go down, and I'm still doing this. The band looks back at me, and they're like. And they just stop. I'm like, don't stop. And finally, like the snare collapses on me, and I just melt down the back of the stage. And the whole, like the cymbals that were up here on the actual drum cage were down on me, pushing me, and I'm still trying to play. So
your cage is becoming a literal cage at this point.
Yes.
Has that ever happened?
I sold that cage directly after that, by the way.
Has a drummer ever been completely steamrolled by their own drum set?
Yes. It's the only time in the history of me playing ever that I had to stop. I had to stop because I was being literally crushed by my cage, and I was trapped because the actual back bars flew this way, so it just went, and it was like,
oh man.
Across me.
I'm just picturing that moment.
They need to bring like the jaws of life to get you out of there.
So all the shit that my band talked on my drum cage, that was the last of it.
Yeah,
that show.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like all that talk was completely warranted, considering.
I was gonna say, did it not justify?
They're like, someday you're
gonna
get caught by that cage.
I was gonna eat you alive.
I was waiting for the moment where the weird potato sack toga guy actually becomes the one who saves you, comes and rips the cage.
That would have been. It was the other bands that were just trying to pull it up, like Jaws of Life shit going on.
Dude, Jesse, I think you need to rack up, buddy.
Yeah.
I think you need to rack up and see what happens.
Yeah.
I played with a rack once, and it was not a great experience.
I might be a little bit your senior, and that used to be the thing, to see how much crap, it's like, lay the kick drum down. 4 people, bring the rack in.
Right. Yeah. Like you're bringing in like a medieval torture device or something like that. Like it's.
I mean, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
Pedal board, big ass drum rack.
Yeah.
Might as well. I'll just add an electronic kit to it too. Just add some pads and
Yeah.
run
Why
some
not?
effects on those.
All of your pads can trigger what's going on Evan's pedal board.
Yeah.
And
There's a tour prank. Just have rig like electronic pads off to the side that control his pedals.
You
have
could
like one of
could
you
do
guys
MIDI
off to
input
the
triggers
side. Just,
into it.
Yeah.
And you could actually put physical triggers, MIDI trigger into his board, and just have it switch to like cat sounds.
Yeah.
So
Don't do that, please. I will. Shane thought he
Jesse,
saw me
any-
mad at Facedown
I know how to
Fest.
all right, Aaron, Shane, you guys are gonna message me on Facebook after this.
Yeah.
And we're gonna work something out. Next time we play together.
Consider it done. Consider it done.
I'm gonna.
just up there with like MIDI cables. I'm like, don't worry about it, man. I know.
Yeah,
They're
what's-
your
what's all
backup
this extra
cables.
stuff? Yeah.
Hey, at this point, I'm not entirely confident that live music will ever return. So, it's just- not to be a pessimist there, but that prank will probably have to wait for a little bit. So, though, I guess that means you have a lot of time to get it together.
We won't forget.
That's fine.
Hey, the other memory that our bands share together, though, is when we were playing. Do you remember when the entire Audio Feed Festival almost blew away?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was crazy.
We were getting ready to play.
This is why I don't do
First time I
music
met you
festivals.
guys.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, hey, you guys ready to load your stuff up? It's like, there's a monsoon happening.
Yeah. That was insane. Yeah. For anybody that was not there, that was Audio Feed 2019,
Just the
right?
speakers hanging.
2019.
That was 2019.
And
Yeah,
there were
19, yeah.
tents that were just blowing away. Just blowing away. There was a tent with a person inside of it that was blowing away. The person was in there trying to keep it down, and it was just you could see their silhouette like pinned against the fabric of the tent as it's trying to roll away.
Joe from Comrades dug a moat around our merch table.
Yeah,
and so our merch table ended up on this island.
Yeah,
I
while giving a
remember.
treatise on civil engineering, it's digging on it.
If you looked at the
Explaining more.
weather radar that day, it actually just looked like a big drum rack taking over everything.
Just ready to fall on us.
Dude, though, I'm telling you though, I remember when the My Epic guys were busting me up, and they still have, like, they still brought it up, I think, at the last Facedown Fest about our merch situation. Because I was hanging merch on the side of his car.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple different people saying like, hey, there's an extra table. Why don't you guys just, and then the My Epic guys were like, I don't get you guys. Why don't you, this is like your one opportunity to like make some money or whatever. And I go, oh, you mean over there in Lake Audio Feed with the other bands that are up to their knees in water?
Right.
What was it you named it, Evan? You drew a sign and posted it in front of
it was in front of there was a pole. Yeah, Arson Island. There was a pole.
Dude.
You had to go on this like little land bridge to get to our merch, and people were like standing there looking at our merch from 25 feet away. Like, how do I get over there? So I had to draw a little.
I remember
This is the
telling
way.
Jason at Face Down, I said, one, not a shot in hell. I'm setting up merch over there because I'm 34 or 33 years old, and I just not happening. I've done my time. I'm not doing that.
I'm not pole vaulting that moat.
And then I also said, you know, because it was just like, well, you know, you guys could have made some money in merch if you actually like set up at the tables. And I go, oh, you mean we would have sold $50 in merch, and that would have been worth all of that? I'll just put $50 of my own money into the band account
Instead of having to buy a new pair of shoes, which you would
and
have
avoid
had to do.
all of that.
Right.
And, but dude, that was a wild experience because I cannot believe that bands actually played. Now, you guys didn't play on the same day, though, did you?
We played the night before, so we were able to devote all of our attention to making sure that our merch display did not float away and end up like in Lake Michigan or something 3 hours north.
Yeah.
But
Dude, that show too is like,
Good
speaking
time.
of crazy technical problems and people that are in way over their head, Michael, our bass player, decided he wasn't going to play with an amp anymore, and he's just going to bring this basic setup that's going to simplify the whole thing.
Right. It's always supposed
And
to
I'm telling,
simplify
in the pit of my stomach, I'm like, that is never going to work. And even if it does work at every practice, my experience says that show
never going to
is
work.
not
at the
going to
show.
work.
Right.
And you know, and he's laughing at us the whole time because he doesn't have to put an amp in the trailer. And
Right. Yeah.
look at my backpack or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, trying to put my wants aside and say, okay, Michael, you do your thing and I'll stand by it.
Right.
We get on stage, we're all ready to go, minute after minute after minute, already being delayed by Hurricane Illinois. And guess they're sitting over there scrambling, pulling cables, and nothing's working, and this and that, and this and that. And he ended up having to play the whole show with his bass DI'd into the PA.
Oh man.
Absolutely.
Take a Fender Jazz, drop tuned to B, where it shouldn't be, and run it DI through a massive PA and tell me how that looks.
Probably sounds the same as somebody having flatulence into the PA, but you guys did sound incredible that night, and I didn't even notice. So
to me, it's the equivalent of setting up that merch booth in the lake.
Well, there you go. You didn't even realize it, but we got a bonus tour story out of you guys to wrap things up here.
There it is. Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you guys again so much. This was a lot of fun, and we will be looking forward to when we actually get to see you guys in person again. If the world ever figures out how to turn a corner and get in the right direction again. So
we'll meet you guys at the Skanky Cat in Kansas City.
It is the Stray Cat, and it no longer exists.
I like Skanky Cat.
I'm still buried in that building.
I'll bring the potato sack togas. So
I'll bring the drum rack.
That'll be a Gibraltar.
All right, gentlemen.
Amen. Thank you for having us, guys. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you for listening to the American Arson podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a positive comment or review. Connect with us online through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter, and check out AmericanArson.com for music, merch, and upcoming tour dates. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, stay inspired, stay positive, and keep creating.
All right, we're back.
Now we're back.
Are we back?
We're back.
Part 2. I can't believe I forgot this earlier, but I have to ask. So I was listening to your guys' record, all right, when it came out. All right. Badass rock record, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm jamming it. I'm sitting here. I've got it on like full blast in my little studio room here.
Yep.
And literally out of nowhere, I hear everything in slow motion.
I just got so excited.
Finally,
and it's
finally someone
stopped me dead in my tracks because I was just like,
there's another Easter egg right before that in that song too.
Yeah.
Did I miss it?
A little drum fill that and riff that were an intentional nod to a band that recently called
there's a little like Torches Together nod, Me Without You. With the drums, we only had like one measure, so it's that dun 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 dun.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
nice.
But yeah,
I'm listening.
That was intentional.
It hit again. I'm working. I'm just kind of jamming the record. It hits me like a ton of bricks, and I'm just I felt like, I don't know. I was just like, what just happened? So I paused it and I went back and I played again and then everything in slow motion. I'm just like, how dare they?
Yeah, in a song in a part about child exploitation too. So
yeah. Have you ever felt personally victimized by Regina George? You guys don't even know what I'm talking about.
Mean Girls, man. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, one, how dare they? Because they know. I mean, they know. So I have to ask you: was it awkward to sing that into the microphone, knowing that was someone was gonna hear it?
No, I was super stoked.
Did it cross your mind?
Super stoked about it.
First person to call that out.
Oh, somebody in the Facedown family.
Did they really?
Okay. Facebook thing. They noticed it, but yeah.
At least our faces. No one's.
Yeah, there was a couple. Yeah. There was a couple that I put in there. On the last track, "The King Is Alive" too. There's a line, I mean, not that either of these bands wrote it because it's from scripture, but the darkness is not dark to you. Comrades has that line in one of their songs, and What We Do in Secret does as well. So
those are fair game though. Like you said, those are scripture. For Today wrote those, right. So it's all good.
Yes, but when the Bible was written in 2010 by For Today,
For Today wrote scripture. But anyways, no, straight up LaTrue Boys, some of my favorite people on earth. It was so awesome to see those guys at Facedown Fest. But back to this, back to the scene of the accident, back to the scene of the crime.
Yeah, I'm not getting off the hook that easy. Yeah.
I mean, it was. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, cool.
And,
okay, good. I thought it
was hilarious, but I'm like, I know it. It had to have crossed their mind. I know it crossed his mind. There's no way I could just yell American Arson into a microphone and be like, oh, no one will think anything of it.
Yeah, but it's a lot harder to pull that out, to pull off American Arson. Like there's some you just can't really get in.
Watch me whip, Abner.
Oh, yeah.
Watch me whip.
You just wait.
All right.
I dare you.
That means another album, right?
I'm going to do it in Justin Bieber falsetto, too.
The character that you have right here, that's where I want you to say American Arson.
American Arson.
Oh, man.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that character you had when you said arson?
American Arson.
There you go.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
I'll clip that and send it over to you after this, so you can have that demo ready to go for when it's time to start.
Dude, we're gonna save that recording right there and clip it into the intro of one of our next record.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll send you your royalty check in the mail, 7 or 8 cents.
I can't believe I forgot to bring it up earlier, but it's something that is worth mentioning.
It's
because we're here together.
Yes,
you know?
it was worth conversing about. I'm very glad that you noticed it.
So it never crossed your mind a single time, and you were just in the moment singing your song.
Oh no, it definitely crossed my mind.
What was the song about? Remind me one more time.
Well, yeah, that part in particular about child exploitation.
Okay, there it is. Okay. Okay.
No, we actually had that conversation. It was like, hey, do you think they'll think it was cool that we talked that little nod in? Like, oh, you mean that we put it into that part about child exploitation? Yeah, I'm sure they'll think that's real cool.
Go back to that part about it being a nod when you said that. Do you think it'll be? Do you think they'll appreciate the nod?
Yeah, the nod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
it was a nod.
No one's nodding around here. All right. No one's nodding anywhere.
Oh man.
No nodding allowed.
Personally victimized by Regina George. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was. I had to bring it up and bust you guys.
Can we just make this a thing on every future American Arson and everything in slow motion release to see who can come up with the more creative way to fit each other's names into the record?
Or who can drop the most Facedown bands in there?
Yeah,
some of them fit really.
Jason's got nothing but time and money to burn,
right.
So let's.
Maybe on you guys. I think we still have to prove our worth before.
I know we both just dropped records this year, but we had this great idea on a Zoom call the other day. What if we both put out another album?
Why don't we start making diss tracks?
Yeah. There you go. Man, seriously, there's nothing that'll drum up sales more than a little bit of intra-label beef. So
a little band-on-band crime.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys are gonna notice we're gonna put out something.
I got Jesse. Jesse right there. I'm watching Jesse. That one got him.
Oh man,
you got him. I
don't know what you're talking about.
Band-on-band crime. Mm-hmm. Anyways, well, yes. To end episode 2 now, or part 2.
Part 2, right?
Yes. I look forward to a time where we can all share drinks together and hang out and eat good food and enjoy each other's company.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You guys make your way through here. That is 100% on the agenda.
Yeah.
We'll schedule a whole day off after the show just to barbecue.
I think you should.
Sounds good.
We would welcome it. We would welcome you with open arms. With arms wide open.
Get out of here.
Oh man.
And on that note,
boom.
Goodbye.
See you guys later.